welcome to Jacob's Quest, and tonight I just got back from watching Marvel's Thunderbolts, and if I sound excited, it's because this is honestly, this reminds me of old Marvel. Like it feels like we're back in Phase 3, like we're in the lead up to Infinity War. This is like, I haven't felt this genuinely happy after watching a Marvel movie in a while, you know? And don't get me wrong, okay? Like, I enjoyed the last Captain America. I enjoyed it. You know, I definitely noticed its flaws. A lot of people did not enjoy it, but I had a fun time with that movie. But this movie, the quality difference is very clear. Like, this movie, unlike the last several Marvel movies and even Marvel TV shows, this movie does not feel like it was Frankenstein together. Like, this feels like a whole project, you know? Like, it had an actual vision that ran through the whole thing. It was completed on time. They didn't need to do a million reshoots and rewrites and try to desperately edit this thing together and cut out entire plot points. Like, that's how all the other Marvel movies have felt recently. This one just feels like an actual fully complete movie. And I know that sounds like a low bar to cross, but what I'm saying is this was a genuinely great time. It made you care about characters that maybe you didn't care so much about. It put a lot of heart in there. Like there's an emotional core at the center of this movie, and you actually care about it. Like, you actually, like, it has a message, and it's all about teamwork. And I know there's going to be a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy comparisons, right? Which I guess is fair, right? Like, it is, you know, a group of misfits who are not exactly like Captain America, but you put them all together and they can make something, right? So I guess in that way it's a fair comparison, but it is not as, you know, super jokey and wacky as Guardians of the Galaxy was, but it still does have that heart. Now, having said that, it still does have a lot of humor in it, especially Red Guardian. He is the one carrying a lot of the humor here. And then when Bob shows up as, like, you know, when he has his scenes where he's just like a normal dude, and then, like, they all just like kind of hate the fact that, like, who's this normal guy that's with us? That's also pretty funny. So this one has a fair share of humor with it, but it's not a comedy. This is not a comedy movie. It's an action movie, but it's got heart and it makes you care. And man, I'm just really happy with this one. I'm really happy. I'm gonna try to avoid talking about spoilers. That's what I'm doing now. But all it's to say is that the team that they've assembled here, I'm glad that they're a team. I'm glad that they're gonna be around for the next major events that are happening. It's, you know, like now when they show up, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I know this team, I care about them. If one of them dies, I'm gonna be really sad about it, you know? So, like, the stakes feel important. Like, and that's I guess that's the thing about the Marvel movies, right? It's like they have to get you to actually care, you know? Like, the stakes only matter, the world-ending stakes, or even like a villain who just is actually willing to kill heroes. Like, that only matters if you care about them. You know, like, so if you can't just show like a room full of heroes and kill half of them off and you're like, yeah, but so what, you know? like that's, and that feels like what's been done with Marvel recently, is like they're going for like shock value where heroes die or get hurt, and you're like, yeah, but you never made me care about these guys. I care about these characters. So obviously go watch this movie. Like, it's kind of a shame that Marvel's in this place now where it needs to have word of mouth to like hype it up and get people to actually go, because it's like you know, when they made mediocre to forgettable movies in the last handful of years, people don't go, right? Like ticket sales are declining for Marvel, right? So now that they've made one that's actually really great, I hope that the word of mouth is spreading. My theater was packed. Like, there was a lot of people there, and everyone seemed to be really happy with what they did. So yeah, anyways, just go watch this movie. It is worth your time. It is worth the ticket money. And it will actually make you excited for Marvel again. Like, I'm so excited for Fantastic Four now. I was already, but now after this, and you're like, okay, it feels like Marvel's back. Like, it feels like we've come home now, after being away for a while. So anyways, let's get into some spoilers, because there's a lot to talk about. And yeah, I'm not gonna go through like the whole plot synopsis, but let's just one spoiler at a time. Number one, the first spoiler that happens like immediately, kind of what we all thought was going to happen. Everyone guessed this, including me, because it's what's in the trailer. Taskmaster is killed off really early in the movie. Basically, Valentina has tricked all these mercenaries that she has working for her to, like, hey, go to this secret place, someone's breaking in there, make sure you kill this person, and that's your last mission, don't worry about it. And of course everyone was told that about everyone else, and so they all went there to kill each other. And when they figured that out, they all basically decide to team up to try to escape this place, because Valentina just tried to have them all killed, right? So now they're like, okay, well, she's trying to kill us, we need to go stop her. And that's basically like how their whole team up starts. But they do not figure this out until, like, they're all fighting. There's like 4 of them all fighting each other, and it turns out to be Ghost shoots Taskmaster in the head, and she's dead. Like, they show the blood coming out of the bullet hole and everything. Like, she is dead, and it happens in the first like 20 minutes of the movie. And on one hand, look, I know that there was a lot of fans who were really mad about Taskmaster, because it is not the same character as it is in the comics, right? It's essentially an entirely different character. But I do feel bad for the actress, and like, I feel bad that the fan reaction was so extreme when Black Widow came out, that they felt like, hey, this is the expendable one. Of all of the expendable side characters that this movie is being formed with, this is the most expendable. Kill her off immediately. And I kind of feel bad for the actress, because I'm like, damn, like a handful of years ago, and she signed up for Black Widow, and she's gonna be like the main villain. Like, it was probably like an exciting thing. So to just like be killed off like that, I'm like, I mean, she got a cool fight scene before she died, but still, it's like, I kind of feel bad. And I know a lot of fans out there are like, oh, I didn't like that Taskmaster anyways, but I'm like, still though, that's like, you brought everything else from Black Widow out. You got Yelena, you got Red Guardian, and they're central to this, cast, and they're central to this story. Taskmaster, who was the other character, from that movie, it's like, who cares, And they do try to give Yelena like moments where she's like, hey, I did know her, like, I was in that movie with her, I did kind of care. But they basically have to move on, because now they got to form this new team, and Ghost does feel bad about it for like a second, but it's very much like, hey, the movie's got to move on. Taskmaster was the least liked of, I guess, the entire cast, so she's out. So anyways, we all saw that coming, but still, I'm like, I kind of feel bad about it. Next, the other thing about this movie is that it's a simple plot. It's a very simple plot, and there's only really like 2 central locations. Like, everyone is at this secret base where they all almost get killed, and they team up and they try to escape, and then Sentry's powers are revealed for the first time, and like a large portion of the movie is actually at this base where they go to at the beginning of the movie. And then they go to Avengers Tower, and right outside of it, on the streets of New York. And basically the rest of the movie takes place right there. So like in total, there's like 3 locations, I think, for the entire movie. And that was kind of surprising, but it made the plot feel more focused. It didn't feel like we're going to this country and we got to go find this person, and then we have to go do this other thing over here, and then we got to find the passcode. And then it was like very straightforward, just like, okay, we're here, we escaped the thing, let's go confront Valentina, and then, okay, Sentry's here, oh crap, like, and that's what the movie is. So it's so simple, but it's because it does a lot of character work, and man, it works so well. But yes, Bob, he's in his Sentry costume for only really one scene, And that one scene is basically just to demonstrate how overly powered he is. Like, the rest of this team does not stand a chance even for a second, and they make that abundantly clear in this movie. So like they don't even have the illusion that they could ever stop him as Sentry, right? Like, he is Superman, but also he has telekinesis. So he's you know, could he defeat Superman? I don't know, maybe. Like, it's at that level, right? So it really did feel like a bunch of kids trying to fight Superman. So it was kind of funny. But when he basically asked the question, like, well, why do I even have to listen to Valentina? You know, because this is Valentina's whole plot. Basically, she's about to be impeached from being the director of the CIA. She's under investigation. They know that she's part of this company that's been experimenting on humans. And so she tried to destroy all the evidence, including all the mercenaries that worked for her. But when they find out that one of the experiments is actually alive, who is Bob, she basically completely changes course and is like, okay, one of you actually survived the experiments. You're a crazy, overpowered superhero now. I'm going to do this whole PR stunt where I'm going to introduce you as this project I've been working on, the world's greatest hero. And basically, because you're gonna do what I say for some reason, I get to essentially rule the government, I guess. That's the one thing. I was like, so her plan is to what? Just do whatever she wants under threat of Sentry, I guess. That wasn't too clear as to exactly what her plan really was. And also, they introduced that she has a kill switch on Sentry, which she almost immediately has to use, because Sentry pretty quickly is like, wait, so I just defeated that whole team, why do I have to listen to you? And she doesn't even like threaten him with the kill switch. She just has it behind her back and she's about to use it. And I think like her assistant, who I think her assistant is probably the only character who the assistant was there just for plot reasons, if that makes sense. Like, that wasn't really much of a character. It was just because someone has to tell Bucky what's going on and where they're at and what's happening with Bob, and they just needed some character to do that. It could have been anybody. It literally could have been anything. It could have been a leaked email or something, like, but there was an assistant character to Valentina. Anyways, that's the one who pressed the kill switch and they think Bob's dead, just like that. And that activates the Void. So the Void is actually a pretty cool concept. I know in the comics, the Void is like some kind of alien, demon, other kind of weird entity that like leached itself onto the Sentry or something like that. In this movie, the Void is just depression. It's basically, they even give like the Captain America explanation of like, hey, you took someone really great like Steve Rogers and you gave him superpowers, and so he became super great. You know, he became Captain America. But what happens if you take someone who has a lot of trauma and has a lot of like personality issues and is just really mentally unstable, and you give them superpowers? You end up with someone who is the Sentry 1 minute, who's like the greatest guy ever, to the Void, who's basically super depression. Like, it's just like all this shadow that's happening. It's just pulling everyone into this darkness, into their worst memories, into their, you know, everything that could traumatize them. It's like, and basically that's what it is. It's the superpower is just depression. It's trauma. It's, you know, hey, get ready to relive your worst memories, here you go. And now you're stuck in this void, right? So that's really what it is. And so essentially, like, the whole last third act is just him fighting against himself, you know, both metaphorically and literally. He ends up trying to fight his like shadow self, and you know, they do a great job of like, hey, we all joined forces, we're all together, we all have our issues, and we've done things we regret, and we've done things that like we wish we could take back or forget or whatever. But if we surround ourselves with other people who are understanding and other people who can like share in that pain and kind of like, you know, kind of bear some of the weight with us, it makes it feel lighter. you know, like so it's a good message there. There's like a whole thing of like, you know, you let other people into your life, you know, it kind of lightens the load a little bit, right? So it's just a really cool thing that like there's an emotional core there about like your trauma and being together and having this whole found family, and it's a pretty cool thing. I like what they really did there. Anyways, yeah, so basically, you know, and I can already see this being a meme, they essentially not cure his depression, but they get him out of this depressive episode with a group hug, basically. Like they stop him from fighting his shadow self because that's just causing more damage, and they basically like just let him know like, hey, we're all here for you. And they were able to, everyone gets pulled out of the void, and so that episode kind of ends. And really Bob is just in this state of like, hey, I guess I'm just not going to use my powers at all because it could all happen again. And you know, we'll talk about that more in the post credits, but that's basically where he's at now. He's just going to be Bob, and everyone kind of just knows that like, hey, he's you know, he's potentially like the most powerful person on the entire planet, but he's also very dangerous because he could just like, you know, with a flip of a coin, he could just like, or a flip of a switch, I don't know, flip of a coin, with a flip of a switch, he could just turn into the void and everything goes wrong again, right? Which I'm sure is gonna end up coming back in Doomsday or Secret Wars or whatever. Like this is gonna, we're gonna come back to this, you know, because he's definitely not like, that thing is not fixed really, you know, like that's just a thing that could happen at any moment. So we'll see. And yeah, that's pretty much where the movie ends. You know, everyone has a lot of great moments. Red Guardian is amazing. I will say some of them didn't get as much time as others. I think Ghost is kind of left to the side. She gets like a couple of lines here because you know her deal if you remember her from Ant-Man 2. But yeah, she doesn't get as much like backstory, and as she doesn't get to have like a moment, you know, like a really emotionally fueled, like teary-eyed moment talking to the rest of the group. She's really just there when the rest of the group is there, you know. And kind of the same with John Walker also. He does get a little bit more because he and Bob kind of have this like antagonistic relationship at first, so he gets a little bit more to do. But it's really Yelena, Red Guardian, and Bob. Like those are the three like core characters who are kind of carrying the movie emotionally. You know, and of course Winter Soldier's there. Bucky, he gets to do his thing. He's there for the action scenes. He's there to kind of take charge and be the actual experienced leader of the group. Basically stops everyone from bickering and like, hey, we're gonna go here, we're gonna do this is the plan. So he's the adult in the room. Bucky's the adult, so that's kind of funny. You know, and then of course him and Red Guardian, they only get a couple interactions. I kind of want more of Bucky and Red Guardian just talking to each other because that's pretty funny. Anyways, yeah, that's basically the movie, and then we go to the after credits. And so at the end of the movie, sorry, before we go to the after credits, at the end of the movie, very end, they're about to confront Valentina, and it's like, okay, she's gonna go to jail. We have all this evidence against her. We can stand on the witness stand and say everything illegal that she's done, and she'll get impeached from the CIA and all that stuff, right? Like that's where you think it's going. But she has a whole you know, publicity thing ready. All the journalists are here, everyone's ready. She's going to give this big speech, and of course she meant to give this to introduce the Sentry and basically carry out her plan, but because of how everything ended up happening, the Thunderbolts are seen as the heroes now, right? So she goes out there and she's like, I want to introduce you to the new Avengers. And so now they're branded by the government, I guess, because she's still at least as far as I'm aware, she's still the head of the CIA. They are technically the new Avengers, okay? And that's like the name that they're given. So these are the Avengers now. You know, and of course they immediately, and I'm so glad they did this, they immediately like kind of talk about everything that you can imagine people saying. You know, there's all kinds of newspaper headlines like "Not my Avengers," more like "The B Avengers," you know, and just all the different like kind of you know, swipes you could take at these guys for being such misfits and not being nearly as competent as the actual Avengers that we all know. So that's pretty funny. But and they reiterate this, and we all knew this from Captain America, the last Captain America movie, there is no current like Avengers lineup. You know, Sam was gonna try to create the Avengers at the end of that movie. We'll get to that in a second. But officially recognized by the government, these are the Avengers. The Thunderbolts are the Avengers. That's what the little asterisk was for. So we're gonna go to the after credit scene. And yeah, this is where we get a lot of stuff all dumped at once, and I feel like people are going to really have to analyze this part, because there's a big thing that happens at the end, but there's also smaller things that happen before that. So first, it cuts to 14 months later. Now, you know, I'm no expert on the MCU timeline. I can't tell you exactly when whatever happens. As far as I'm aware, we are in 2027 is when the Thunderbolts movie takes place. So now I think they fast forward to 2028, maybe. That's just my guess. I'm gonna say they're in 2028 is when this after credits scene is happening. So right away, there's this whole conversation about how, okay, well, Sam is gonna try to make his own Avengers, which we knew from the end of Captain America. And they're like, well, how can there be two Avengers if they call themselves Avengers, but the government said that we're the Avengers? What even happens there? And then apparently Sam is even trying to copyright the name the Avengers, which is kind of a wild idea. I don't know how I feel about that. And then Bucky says, like, yeah, I tried to talk to Sam about it, but the conversation didn't end well, which I want to hear that conversation. I need to know what happened there. Like how, like, because those two were like really close friends in the show, and then he showed up in Captain America and like, okay, they're still close, but suddenly it's like was this Avengers thing such a big deal that they got in a fight about it? That, I don't know, that seems kind of wild to me, but all right. And of course Red Guardian shows up with this stupid uniform where he's got all the brand deals, which Marvel actually does have, like Tide and stuff. And he's like, how about the Avengers with a Z at the end? He's got it all like patched up, and it's really dumb. He's a funny character. Now Sam is trying to create his own Avengers, but it's also been 14 months. So you're telling me that it's been more than a year since the last Captain America, and he still has not fully put together an Avengers team? That seems a little wild, because it feels like Sam has access to, you know, it feels like he could call Thor. He could get a hold of Hulk. He could figure out where the hell Doctor Strange went. Like, Sam has more connections than the people in the Thunderbolts do. It feels like that, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like that would be the case, that he would be able to easily put together a team of at least a couple people, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, the other thing that they immediately talk about is that there's something happening in space. And they said that they, like, no one's telling them about it. And I need to hear exactly what they said. They said there's some kind of anomaly in space, and no one's explaining to them what's happening. And I feel like this is the part that's going to get lost on a lot of people, because they say this, and then after that, like a couple scenes after that, because they even like, hey, they make a joke about how like, oh, hey, Bob, you could turn into the Sentry and you could fly up there, and you know, and they make a joke about how like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna jump on the Sentry's back and fly all the way to space. So something's already going on, and I have to imagine that this is actually an incursion event. Like maybe up in space, there's another Earth right there, and somebody somewhere, maybe it's Sword, is like keeping it all hush hush. I don't know. Somebody's not telling the new Avengers what's happening. That's all I know. But then they get an alert that something else is entering the atmosphere, and it is a transdimensional shuttle, right? It's from a different dimension, and so they get satellite feed to figure out what this shuttle is, this thing, and of course it is the Fantastic Four spaceship coming into the 616, and they see the logo of the Fantastic Four, and that's where it ends. So, to be clear, because I feel like here's where it's gonna get confusing for some people, there was already something happening in space that they did not know about, and then after that, the Fantastic Four showed up. So, you know, this is taking place roughly 2028, I think. It seems clear that at the end of the Fantastic Four, probably, they're going to end up having to leave the planet Earth. You know, and we already saw in the trailer, it at least it appears that we see a planet explode. We see their spaceship leave that area of space. And it is the same spaceship, by the way. It's the exact same one that we see in the trailer. So I'm assuming that that is the end of the movie of Fantastic Four, and they leave as their planet gets destroyed. I think that's what's about to happen, which is kind of a really downer of an ending for a movie, but also like that kind of feels right because the rest of Fantastic Four feels like a really upbeat, happy movie. So it's like, oh yeah, but this is all doomed, right? Get it? Doomed? Anyways. So I suspect that that's what's going to happen. Now, the fact that this all takes place more than a year after the Thunderbolts, they're leaving a lot of space there as to like what else is going on. And for some reason, Sam still has not assembled an Avengers. But what else is happening? Like, why push this a year? Because Fantastic Four, remember, that's happening in a different universe. That entire movie, different universe. So what else is happening that they felt the need to be like, hey, we need to like jump a year ahead of time in order for all these pieces to fit together? So I'm not really sure what's going on there, why they felt the need to do that. That's pretty interesting. I mean, what else is even coming out, right? I think it's, you know, a Fantastic Four, and then is there going to be a Spider-Man before Doomsday? I'm not actually sure about that. I'm going to go look up whatever the actual movie schedule is, because I think after Fantastic Four, I think it's Doomsday, right? Unless there's a Spider-Man. I don't remember any other movies being announced, I don't think. So, yeah. In any case, pretty crazy post-credit scene. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with this movie. Like, just all around. Like, even without that post-credit scene, I was already like, hey, they did it. You know, you established a team. You actually got me to care about them. You had an emotional core in the movie. It didn't feel like it was Frankenstein together through the edit. Like, it felt like an actual, solid, complete movie that was competently made and done. So I was really happy with that. And then the post-credit scene just, like, added on top of that, because it felt like it had substance and it was actually going to be consequential and it's going to matter. Which, I know, again, those things used to not be shocking for Marvel movies, that the post-credit scene actually matters. Like, those used to just be assumed. Like, people just assumed, like, yeah, of course it's going to matter. Why else would you do it? But, yeah, I think the last handful of movies, everyone's like, that post-credit scene didn't mean anything. Like, that was, like, a nonsense one. So, anyways, I'm really happy with this. Let me know what you guys think about the Thunderbolts. Highly recommend you tell everyone to go see it, because I want this one to be a real big success, because I need them to know, like, that's how the message gets delivered, that like, hey, when you do it like this, when you take your time and you actually, you know, you don't have to like chop up a movie and try to reconfigure it for whatever reason, it works. Anyways, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.